Sports Scoop with Nathan Schivins, WPPJ 670 AM, Point Park's radio station. Hope everybody's having a great Monday here so far. First show of the semester for me, new time, Mondays at noon, is going to be when I'm on each week. Very excited to be back. I got a lot to get into today. Before I get into everything, if you like my show and everything, I want to support, I post this full radio hour clip on YouTube each week. So if you want to check that out on my YouTube channel, you can. But yeah, thank you everybody who supports. And I just got a lot to get into on this edition. Obviously, the Super Bowl happened on Sunday, so that wasn't the greatest game, but there's a lot to get into with this game. There's a lot of storylines to talk about. I'm going to talk about that, but there's some big Pittsburgh Pirates news this morning. The Pirates signing free agent designated hitter Marcell Ozuna to a one-year deal with a mutual option for 2027. I'm going to react to that. We're going to talk about some Pittsburgh Pirates on international rosters for the World Baseball Classic, which is coming up in a little bit here. And I'm going to talk about the NBA because this is the trade deadline for me. I watch like the whole season for the most part, but the trade deadline I think is when a lot of people start paying attention, or maybe it's the All-Star break, I don't know. But it was a big trade deadline, and Giannis didn't move, but a lot of other big-time players did, so I'm going to react to that as well. But yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. It's going to be Mondays at noon every week, the Sports Scoop with Nathan Schivins. So mark down your calendars if you care whatsoever. But yeah, let's just get right into it. The Seattle Seahawks are Super Bowl champions for the second time in their history. For them, they obviously would like to say it's for the third time. But the Patriots of a little over a decade ago spoiled that. But nonetheless, Seattle Super Bowl champions, very well deserved. This Seattle team, they've been the best team all season for the most part. They have been tremendous defensively. I mean, just spectacular. And we saw that in this game. I mean, Drake May wasn't good, but there was just nowhere to go with the football at times. The pass rush with four-man rush was getting to Drake May consistently. I mean, it was crazy. This Seattle defense. But yeah, 14-3 this season. Sam Darnold replicating what he did in 2024 with Minnesota. Signs that contract in the offseason for 3 years. The Seahawks, they get out of the Geno Smith deal. He didn't want an extension. They didn't come together on an extension. He wanted more money. The Seahawks said, we could get somebody else at the price we're offering you. They trade him to the Raiders. They trade DK Metcalf to the Steelers. And the draft pick that they received, they used to draft Nicky Inamori, who ended up becoming a star this season with Seattle. And you can't say enough about John Schneider, their front office. Mike McDonald. Again, Mike McDonald, he's a defensive head coach. He's calling the defensive plays. I mean, he's been tremendous. I mean, out of nowhere, honestly, because I remember when he was hired, it was kind of like, oh, you know, he was a former Ravens coordinator, D coordinator. You know, we'll see, because at the time the league was pivoting heavy to offense. You need an offensive coach to win a championship, right? You need a young offensive mind, a McVay, a Shanahan, something like that. Mike McDonald gets hired, ho-hum, whatever. Not grabbing headlines like maybe some of the other coaches did in this cycle or in previous cycles. But he goes to work, and he's been a tremendous coach and a leader for Seattle. They were just a well-oiled machine this year. There wasn't a position on the field that they were bad. They weren't great at every position, but they didn't have any weaknesses at any position. Sam Darnold certainly wasn't a weakness. We saw what Kenneth Walker was able to do in this game, and really in this whole playoffs, over 120 yards all-purpose in every playoff game for Seattle. And he had to step up big with Zach Charbonnet, kind of his fellow running back in that room, getting hurt in these playoffs. He's really stepped up for Seattle. You talk about Jackson Smith-Njigba, the best receiver in football this season. And he actually didn't even have the biggest game for Seattle. He left in the third quarter. They were saying maybe he hit his head, maybe his ankle's a little not feeling as good. But Cooper Kupp stepped up a little bit in this game. And Seattle, I mean, they just did enough offensively and then just let their defense go to work. For Sam Darnold this season, it was almost, if you don't make the big mistake, if you don't make crazy mistakes, we're going to be just fine. And he didn't make any mistakes, really, in this playoffs at all. And Seattle was more than fine. And they're just really impressive this season. And there's no signs of it slowing down because, again, this defense, for the most part, is very young. It's a lot of guys that Seattle has drafted. They're homegrown players. They're players who've come up in the Seattle system and the Mike Macdonald defensive system and have had immense success. You talk about this D-line, or you talk about even guys that they brought in, a Leonard Williams, a DeMarcus Lawrence, these guys who were hungry to win a championship and went to a really not only a stable organization but a winning organization in Seattle and really helped put them over the top. And it's crazy to me. I mean, going into the season, I think a lot of people thought Seattle would be a good team. We thought they upgraded certainly a quarterback from Geno Smith to Sam Darnold. But you're getting rid of DK Metcalf, who's been your number one for a while. That defense could it take the next step? Right? I mean, what is the running back situation? Is Kenneth Walker a running back one? And all those questions were answered with flying colors by Seattle. Kenneth Walker certainly proven to be a number one back. Jackson Smith-Njigba stepped up in a huge way, and that defense has taken a massive step. And it's like you can't say enough about Seattle. They were just dominant. I mean, for a lot of the game, they just rushed four. But when they brought the corner off the edge, when they brought Witherspoon, right, when they brought others, they were lethal. And Witherspoon had a great game. I mean, just everybody defensively had a great game for Seattle. Just making it so hard for Drake May and this New England offense to really get anything going. And I'm going to get into the New England side of things in a second here. But just a tremendous all-around effort by Seattle in this game throughout this season. I mean, they've been dominant this season. And they were the best team in the regular season. A lot of people just didn't want to admit that. They're like, there's Josh Allen, there's Matt Stafford in his own division, it's Sam Darnold. People are so a little wishy-washy. You really can't be now. I mean, he's cemented himself as somewhere around the 9th or 10th, at least, best quarterback in football. And because this is 2 years in a row, and in San Francisco he was very solid as well in the action that he got. But this is 2 full seasons in a row of him being a really, really good starting quarterback for winning teams and for a Super Bowl team. So I'm just so happy for Sam Darnold. His journey has been far from orthodox. It's been tough. He went to New York, and now we know for sure. We thought that initially, but it's the New York Jets that are the issue, not these quarterbacks necessarily, or these coaches that they bring in. I mean, they brought in Robert Saleh, and he did a pretty solid job, and they get rid of him. And we think Saleh is going to do pretty good things with Tennessee. I think so. Now, some of the coaches they've hired, like Adam Gase, have been terrible, but the New York Jets as a organization, and maybe that's why Dante Moore said, I'm going back to college, make some more money at Oregon instead of potentially being drafted by the New York Jets. It's just another indictment on the Jets organization because Sam Darnold was not set up for any success whatsoever there. He goes to Carolina, he's injured a little bit, but you see some signs. Shanahan takes a flyer on him as a backup quarterback, and he's successful when he steps in, parlays that into an opportunity with Minnesota. Obviously, J.J. McCarthy gets hurt, Sam Darnold steps in, and he's able to lead the Vikings to a 14-3 record and a playoff appearance. Unfortunate that they had to be in the wild card game, and then this season he gets a little bit of money, although Seattle, another thing is, that deal is such a team-friendly deal now. I mean, at the time, it's kind of seemed like it was a team-friendly deal with Sam Darnold, right? 3 years, $110 million or something. But now it really looks like a team-friendly deal. And they have a lot of young players who are on rookie contracts. So there's still cap space for Seattle. They might have to pay a couple guys at some point here. I think Lawrence may be a free agent. Some of them older players that they have. But they're in a really good spot for next season, for beyond. I just love watching them. They're so buttoned up. You watch them defensively. They were like the Houston Texans. I think the Texans and the Seahawks defenses were the two in the top tier in the NFL. You watch Houston, you might complete a pass, but you're getting tackled immediately, right? You're going to face immense pressure from a pass rush that's going to rush four every play. And they're just going to be physical, they're going to be tenacious, and they're just going to wear you down throughout the game. And that's what they did to New England. Seattle did. They just wore New England down. It didn't help that Drake May was inaccurate for basically the entire game. And it was just a recipe for disaster for New England. And but what else can you say about Seattle? I mean, I'm just blown away how well-oiled of a machine they really are. It was just tremendous watching that. It's just clean, good football. And in an NFL with a lot of teams that, a lot more than ever, that are kind of bad products, to put it mildly, Seattle is one of the better products you'll see. And I'm rooting for them moving forward. I root for these organizations that do it the right way, that are smart, that move off of things if it doesn't go well. I'm going to talk about New England. You know, they lost the Super Bowl. They got their butts kicked, really, in the Super Bowl. But there is so much to look forward to if you're the New England Patriots going forward. And I root for them, too, because they're an organization. They pivot. They move off of Gerard Mayo after one season. This is not going to work. They moved off of Belichick before that. It's run its course. Let's pivot to Mike Vrabel. Let's pay up on the defensive side, because that was where they were sort of on offense, too, but you got Drake May now. And let's keep building this thing. So with Seattle, obviously, John Schneider just drafting incredible. Nobody drafts better than Seattle. They had a great draft in 2025. They're probably going to draft a great in 2026, even with a very low first-round pick. They make shrewd signings. They know when to move off of players. And it was just great to watch and witness what Seattle was able to do. Just tremendous effort by them. Again, where's the hole on that roster? There isn't one. Their secondary is elite. The linebacking core is not as talked about as much, but they're very, very solid. And they tackle, and they make plays in open space. And that D-line is relentless. So, congrats to Seattle. What a performance by them, and they're much-deserved Super Bowl champions. And I do think I've seen some power rankings for 2026 NFL season already that are disrespectful to Seattle, had them at 3 behind the Broncos and the Rams. And I just don't think you can put them lower than 1 after they win the Super Bowl, and they have some cap space, they draft well, and they're not losing too many free agents, you'd assume. So we'll see where Seattle goes next season, but I would like to think they'd be the favorites, and I would have them as the favorites for next season as well, because they just won the Super Bowl, and it's kind of disrespectful to kind of put Denver ahead of them, or the Rams, who the Seahawks just beat, and with the Rams, who have an aging quarterback and aging wide receiver too. So I think it was a bit disrespectful, but Seattle, congratulations, certainly. I want to pivot to New England, because it wasn't a good game. Offensively, they were putrid. Drake May was out of touch. He was not playing well for really the entire game. He actually made a couple just great throws, but those were mixed in with really the rest that were not good at all. And it's tough. It's tough. Remember, this is his second year in the league, and last season, they were 3-14. And he was, it's his rookie season. You're going through the motions. You have no talent around you. This season, they go 14-3. They beat the best defense in the AFC in the Houston Texans. They beat the Chargers in the wild card game with a really solid defense as well. They beat the Broncos with a really solid defense. I understand if Bo Nix was playing, I think that it would be a different story. But you got to give a lot of credit to New England. They're way ahead of schedule. A lot of people, they were a trendy pick to make the playoffs, maybe in the AFC, going into this season as maybe a 9-10 win team. They win 14 games and they make it to the Super Bowl. So want to touch on that and give them their flowers and their props. First off, Mike Vrabel's done an incredible job with this team, with this roster. Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator, has done tremendous with Drake May. and with the pieces around him to design an offense that has been really the second best in football this season. So kudos and props to New England for this season. It was an incredibly successful season going into the Super Bowl, no matter if they won or lost. Obviously, you'd like to win, but this roster, I mean, they did not have designs on making the Super Bowl with this roster, right? They spent a lot of money in the offseason. They had a ton of cap space, right? They bring in some guys on that defensive line. They bring in some corners. They have Christian Gonzalez, who was tremendous. It was kept them in the game last night. But this was still a team. The receiver, Stephon Diggs, really isn't a wide receiver one at this point, and he's kind of all over the place personally, and, don't want to get into all that, but not really a reliable number one. Kayshon Bouttie's been good this season, and there's some guys that are good. Matt Collins is okay, but and then running back Travion Henderson, a rookie, had his ups and downs, and Rondre Stevenson fumbles all the time. But this was supposed to be a year of, if we make the playoffs, that's great, and then we could parlay that into another offseason of adding to this offensive line, which is not good. It was not good this season. It wasn't good in the playoffs, and it was horrible against a great Seattle pass rush. Will Campbell just, he's a rookie. Did you give him a pass? This is a great pass rush, like I mentioned, but he looked like every play he was just getting pushed back by DeMarcus Lawrence and by these Seattle pass rushers. It was kind of hard to see. And Drake May's running for his life and everything. Drake May really didn't pick up the blitz too much when Seattle did blitz. Didn't pick up the pressures as well. And some of the dump-offs he just didn't complete. There were a lot of dump-off opportunities that could have put him in a 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4 instead of a 3rd and 8 and 3rd and 9, which is where New England kind of lived in this game. And that could have been the difference to get some more points on the board. But Seattle kind of did their prevent at the end, and Drake May was able to complete some things, but then he threw the ball up to Matt Collins in triple coverage. That could have been picked. And then kind of a desperation heave, late in the game, but there was still like 4 minutes left. They had timeouts. It was a 2-possession game, but if you score with 3 minutes left, there's still a chance. Onside kick and everything. He just kind of heaved it up, nowhere near his receiver, and it was an easy interception. I mean, it was just a really bad decision by Drake May. He was just off today, yesterday, not today, but he was off in the Super Bowl, and that's okay. He's a young player in this league who's had close to an MVP season. I think Matt Stafford was deserved to win the MVP, but Drake May was tremendous this season and led this team to all their successes. So New England, they're going to be fine, right? There's going to be some improvements this offseason. I think Travion Henderson's only going to get better. I think they're going to address this O-line. They need a couple O-linemen for sure. But the New England Patriots are way ahead of schedule. And it's a scary thing for the AFC because they're only going to get better. And you look at Buffalo in their division, they got to be worried about New England going forward. I think that's why Josh Allen was so upset when his team lost and he was unable to get it done against the Denver Broncos, because they would have played the New England Patriots, and Josh Allen and the Bills probably thought they could have fared a little better in that Super Bowl. But props to Seattle. New England, Drake May, that's the most vaunted defense he'll face, other than Houston. Houston did pretty well against him, but he made some plays against Houston, but they were at home. It was kind of goofy conditions. I don't know, but for New England, for Drake May, it'll be okay. Next season, you're going to be one of the favorites in the AFC. You're going to improve this offseason. So wouldn't panic at all or be too down if I'm a New England fan. Obviously, you lost in the Super Bowl, but don't be too down because the future's bright here with Drake May and the New England Patriots. But, I'm going to take a break here. Coming up on the other side, we are going to discuss the Pirates making a move. Sports Group and Nathan Schivins, WPPJ 670 AM. And welcome back to the Sports Group and Nathan Schivins, WPPJ 670 AM, Poi Park's radio station. The Pittsburgh Pirates made a move this morning. They signed Marcell Ozuna, designated hitter, to a 1-year, $12 million contract, which has a mutual option for 2027. And Marcell Ozuna is a guy that was mentioned a little bit with the Pirates having interest over the past week or so. Is this crazy surprising? No, it isn't. But I think it's necessary. I think it's an important signing for the Pirates because you miss out on Kyle Schwarber. Now, I don't think anybody thought the Pirates were going to land him. They would have to massively overpay just for him to consider Pittsburgh. Massively overpay what the Phillies were offering because that's the team he's been playing for. That's a team in a much better situation at that time, right, with the roster that's been in the playoffs and has shown they're capable of winning. So that was going to be tough, but you fall short on Kyle Schwarber. You fall short on Eugenio Suarez, who that was the guy. It seemed obvious the Pirates were a fit. He would bring a ton of power to your lineup. Is he the greatest defensively? No, but you got Jared Triolo to back him up and replace him defensively if you need to late in the game when it would matter. He would have been it was a no-brainer kind of move to sign Suarez, but the Pirates come in second to the division rival Reds, who signed him. And the Pirates, it was reported they were willing to offer him more average annual value and give him another season or a multi-year deal. And the Reds just gave him one for $15. But you fall short there. Apparently you were in on Framber Valdez very late in the process. They were all in, apparently. But I don't think they thought Valdez was going to get $38 million a year by Detroit. Now, what a weird move by Detroit, in my opinion. I mean, $38 million for Valdez, and you think Tarek Skubal's valued at $19 million, and Tarek Skubal wins his arbitration, gets $32. I just think that's a bad PR thing for Detroit. That's bad signaling to your star, one of the best, if not the best pitcher in baseball, saying you're this guy who's coming in who has a little bit of behavior issues at times and has not been as good a pitcher as you, we think is valued almost twice as much as you are financially. So that really, I think, was a bad move by Detroit. But the Pirates were not going to sign Framber Valdez for $38 million a year. So you fall short there. And you're just wondering, and then Isaac Paredes, there were rumors the Pirates are in on him. I don't know how much they'd be on him now with the signing of Marcell Ozuna, but I don't know if it was looking crazy likely that they were going to win that sweepstakes if he was going to get traded. So you've been falling short. You've been kind of runners-up on a number of bigger-name free agents. I think it was important that the Pirates add a bat of Marcell Ozuna's caliber, who had a down season last season, 21 homers and a .232 batting average for Atlanta. But everybody really for Atlanta had a down hitting season. I don't know what was in the water maybe down there in Georgia, but everybody was kind of underperforming. I mean, the year prior, he played all 162 games and had 39 homers and 104 RBIs, batting .302, right? So that was 2024. That was one season before last season. That was really 2 seasons ago. Now, all of his kind of numbers obviously regressed in 2025 from his 2024 numbers. But I still think there's a lot of upside there. So his bat speed dropped 1.1 miles per hour. His slugging dropped over 100 points against every pitch. And he's not good defensively. So there are some downsides here with Marcell Ozuna. But again, I think he will have a better season. Now, PNC Park isn't the most friendly hitting park for right-handed hitters. That's a deep left field. So that'll be interesting. But I think it's a good move for the Pirates. I still think Marcell Ozuna has a lot in the tank. Let's see, how old is Marcell Ozuna? He's 35. He just turned 35. This is age 35 season, right? So he's not 38 or 39, but he's on the back end of his career. But, 1.6 WAR last year, again, it's just a guy that could lengthen this lineup. It's not per se just all on Marcell Ozuna to have a great hitting season for the Pirates. It's to lengthen this lineup and put less pressure on a guy like Bryan Reynolds, who's been pressing for years, because he has to be that guy in a lineup that's around him very underwhelming. Or a guy like Oneil Cruz, who knows his potential, knows the talent that he has, and is kind of overdoing it maybe, or trying too hard in certain aspects. I think if you could take pressure off, particularly Oneil Cruz, I think Bryan Reynolds is going to bounce back. There's no reason to think he won't. He's not 35 either. He's 32, 33, Bryan Reynolds, and every year before that he was as consistent as it gets. So I think Reynolds will bounce back, and I think that's going to be a welcome thing for the Pirates. And I think Oneil Cruz, look, he can't get any worse with his skill set, with his talent, than he did offensively last season. For a while, he was kind of a 255 hitter, and he was showing his power in the start of the season, and the second half of the season, he just really tailed off. If Oneil Cruz could put it together for one season, for a full season, and Bryan Reynolds bounces back, and Marcell Ozuna maybe isn't what he was in 2024, but it's a little bit like that, right? And you get your contributions you think you're going to get from Ryan O'Hearn, from Brandon Lau, from Spencer Horwitz, right? And then what if Connor Griffin comes up in June or July to play short? I think you could start dreaming a little bit about the Pirates, about their prospects. This pitching staff is going to be dominant. Obviously, it starts with Skeens. But Braxton Ashcraft showed a lot. You're hoping Jared Jones comes back and doesn't miss a beat. Obviously, Mitch Keller. And Bubba Chandler with the incredibly high ceiling that he has. And he showed a ton of what he can do last season. So I think this team, I'd like to see another veteran added to the rotation. I know Ben Cherington has said they're looking at that avenue. They're trying. They always like to get a veteran starting pitcher just because it's a very young rotation. It's a young pitching staff overall. I think their bullpen's fine, honestly. The Pirates aren't really aggressively pursuing bullpen. I think because they have confidence in it. Dennis Santana was great last season. I like the addition of Gregory Soto. I like Majinski in the bullpen and not as a starter kind of bullpen mix. Kyle Nicholas, if he can put it together, right? There's some players. There's some pitchers in this bullpen that I really like. And there's a lot of young pitchers still in the minor leagues with the Pirates that could be used in a bullpen kind of role that have elite stuff. Kind of like a Hunter Barco who maybe doesn't make the rotation because there's so many really quality players in the rotation, but could be a really elite bullpen addition. Mason Montgomery they brought in, who throws 100 miles an hour. If he can get his control under control, you can really start dreaming about the potential of the bullpen. So, do I think they're right there with the Cubs in this division? I don't at the moment. Now, if they get an Isak Paredes too, then maybe you could start dreaming about that. I don't think they can go hitter for hitter with Chicago yet. I do think the Pirates have a better pitching staff. And so I don't think the Pirates have as many star players like Chicago does, particularly offensively, to make you go, wow. But they got Skeens. And that's one of the bigger, if not the biggest star in baseball. So I think there's a lot more upside to this team than we've been able to say for a very long time. And that's a credit to the front office. It's a credit to ownership. And now, spring training starting up, the games in a couple weeks here. There's momentum with the Pirates. There's optimism. Again, is it going to be the greatest defensive team? No, it's not. But then again, it was great defensively for a couple of years, and they were the worst offensive team, and it didn't matter whatsoever. So I think the defensive aspect, you can kind of put that to the side for now. Oneil Cruz has been training with Kevin Kiermaier. And Oneil Cruz he took plays off last season, he did. But when he gave it his all, he wasn't terrible. He made some plays that few can make just because of his speed, because of his height, and his ability to get the balls that many outfielders can't. And obviously we know about the arm strength. He threw out guys at the plate in some crazy plays in Seattle and Colorado. I think Oneil Cruz is going to end up being a really solid defensive player. I don't think Bryan Reynolds is terrible defensively. The numbers aren't really in his favor, but I think he's an okay defender who makes the plays that are around him, makes the routine plays. And Ryan O'Hearn, who knows? He's going to have to play outfield more. He could probably DH sometimes to give Marcell Ozuna a breather against right-handed pitching. But he'll probably slot into an outfield slot for a lot of this season. And so is he the greatest outfielder defensively? No. But again, if you go into the season with Triolo, I care about shortstop and third base defensively a lot. Probably the most, obviously catcher. But I think Triolo defensively, when he's in, is going to be really good. And I think Spencer Horwitz is fine defensively. I think people kind of don't give him the credit he deserves from a defensive standpoint. He made every play I remember last season that was in his direction. And so I'm excited about the offense, of the potential offense of this team for the first time in a while. So I like the Marcell Ozuna signing. He's going to slot into the DH spot. Again, if you're a Pirates fan, you're hoping the regression in bat speed, right? The regression in slugging against, the fastball and these other pitches. You're hoping that kind of is reversed this season, because that is kind of a thing. The concern is he's 35 now. That's kind of a thing that with age you lose your bat speed a little bit. We've seen guys like Cutch not really lose his bat speed that much, but Father Time's undefeated, and that certainly can happen. So that is a bit concerning. You want to see a different trend with that, but I think the upside that Marcell Ozuna provides. In a down season, he had 21 home runs in not a full plate appearance total for a season. So I think he immediately provides power to this lineup, which is something they've desperately needed for years, particularly last year when they were dead last by a lot in home runs. Now, as PNC Park, like I was saying earlier, is it the most conducive to home runs for right-handed hitters? No, it isn't. But they're going to be on the road half the time. And I think Marcell Ozuna, if he can get comfortable with the batter's eye and everything at PNC Park, I think he's a good hitter. I think he can be successful. So I like this signing. I think Marcell Ozuna is a guy that I thought his market would be better as well, even though he had a down season. We've seen what he's been able to do. The Pirates get him at $12 million. It's obviously a good thing when the Pirates are spending a little money here. But I want to pivot to what this means for Andrew McCutchen, because Andrew McCutchen's a right-handed bat that is primarily a DH at this stage of his career. Marcell Ozuna is a right-handed bat that's a DH that's primarily going to play DH for the rest of his career. And so do I think it completely eliminates Cutch from being re-signed? No, I don't, because, again, I still think Cutch was the third best hitter on this team last season. You can find a spot for him, right? Especially if you get a Paredes or something and you trade a Joey Bart. That'd be a lot of right-handed hitters, but I think Cutch, you can give him a spot. And I think he still has that hit tool. We saw it last season. He has the hit tool still. He has the bat speed. And so I would like to see Cutch come back. I don't think that was kind of how he wanted to go out last season. Just kind of not having that 1 year runway. I think if you sign him to a 1 year, $5 million deal, again, I think there's a spot for him on this team. I think he provides something. Now, people were saying before, I don't know, that in the clubhouse he wasn't as respected, or I don't know, or the manager didn't like, whatever. I don't know, people are saying that. I don't know the validity of that. I'm not going to speak on that. I'm going to speak on the player that he is, the person he has been for Pittsburgh, for the Pirates organization, for decades now. We're going on decades with Andrew McCutchen, somebody who lives in Pittsburgh, who loves this city, who's raising a family here. I think you could find a spot for Andrew McCutchen on this team, and he would provide value to the team from a hitting standpoint. And he said, hey, I'll play in the outfield. The only reason he didn't play in the outfield is because the Pirates didn't want him playing in the outfield. he played in the outfield a handful of games last season. He was making some diving plays. I remember he made a catch against the chain link wall, the Clemente wall in right field. I think he could. I think he can defend a little bit still. I don't like the way that it's ended here for Cutch. Just somebody who is given his all for this organization, who's come back to this organization when they were 40 and 30 games under 500 just a couple seasons ago. So I would like to see Andrew McCutchen back. I think you can find a spot for him, certainly on this roster. But this Marcell Ozuna signing does make it more challenging. And do I think Marcell Ozuna is a better hitter than McCutchen at this stage? I do. Right? I mean, Marcell Ozuna had 21 homers last season and a 1.6 WAR on Baseball Reference. So he still has that game. I think Cutch still does too. But when you're DHing, you got to be above average as a hitter. And Cutch was about league average in 2025 and in 2024, really, offensively. And so if he could play the outfield a little bit, he said he wanted to, and he can, I think you should give him that chance. But age 39 season, this would be for Cutch. He turns 40 in October. I would take a flyer. It's not even taking a flyer. I mean, I think he would be okay with even being on the bench half the time if this is a team that can get to the playoffs and can try to compete in the National League. I think that would be, he would love that. I think his family would love that. The city would love that. I would love that. And I would like to see that happen. But it does make it more unlikely with the Marcell Ozuna signing. Now, Cutch did post a video of him hitting and everything and preparing and showing he's still got a lot in the tank. So I don't know. I really don't know how this situation unfolds from here. There's still time in the off season, but it is looking less and less likely. So that's where we are with the Pirates in terms of that. Now we'll talk a lot more about the Pirates going forward. I want to get into the Pirates players who are on World Baseball Classic rosters here, because that was announced recently here. Obviously, Paul Skeens is going to be on Team USA. That is a very big get for Mark DeRosa and Team USA. Team USA's pitching is so much better than it was a couple years ago when Lance Lynn was headlining the rotation for Team USA. But for the Dominican Republic, O'Neal Cruz, Dennis Santana, Gregory Soto are going to play for the Dominican Republic team. Kyle Nicholas is going to be playing for Team Italy. That was announced. Nick Gonzalez and newly signed pitcher Jose Urquidy are going to play for Team Mexico. Spencer Horwitz is going to play for Team Israel. And Antoine Kelly, a minor leaguer for the Pirates, he's going to play for the Team Netherlands. So that's all that we have here for the Pirates playing on World Baseball Classic rosters. It's an interesting dynamic. A lot of these teams are grappling with, should we have our guys, allow them to play in the World Baseball Classic? What if they get hurt in the World Baseball Classic and then it limits their impact for us this season? Right? There's always that risk. And obviously with a guy like Skeens is the Pirates, right, at this point. And you don't want him getting hurt. But Skeens, yeah, I think I support the move. I think it's going to be great seeing Paul Skeens pitch for Team USA. I'm really excited for that. I think O'Neal Cruz, I think the reps will be beneficial for him with the Dominican Republic team. I just hope these guys don't get hurt. That's the only thing. That's what these teams, that's their worry, just that the guys will get hurt before the season, then they get to miss time, and maybe they miss half the season, right, and then can't make the impact. Especially for a team like the Pirates, they need everybody healthy. We saw offensively, they had just a little bit of injuries offensively last season's Horwitz and Gonzalez early on, and it completely derailed the season. So the Pirates, they got to be healthy. So that's just the one thing with the World Baseball Classic. You got to have your players healthy on the other side. But I think it's very exciting. I like the World Baseball Classic. I think it's fun. The fans of these countries, they like it. The players love it. They love the pride for their countries. So that was the breakdown of players who are going to be playing in the World Baseball Classic on the Pirates, which will be coming up here in a little over a month, I think, or a month, something like that. But yeah, very exciting stuff. So going to take the last break of the show. Coming up on the other side, we're going to discuss the NBA trade deadline and some of the big moves that were made involving some big-time teams and questions that have arisen out of the trade deadline. Sports Scoop with Nathan Schivins, WPPJ 670 AM. And welcome back to the Sports Scoop with Nathan Schivins, WPPJ 670 AM, Point Park's radio station. Want to close the show here with some talk about the NBA trade deadline, which didn't have the splash Giannis move that a lot of players and execs and insiders were expecting or anticipating. That situation's a mess. I don't think Giannis is handling it great. The Bucks are just I think the Bucks should have moved on from Giannis in the offseason. But that's another story that we can discuss later. But I want to get through and discuss some of the trades that did happen. One of them that I really caught my eye, obviously, was the Cavs acquiring James Harden from the Clippers for Darius Garland and a second-round pick. You know, it's an interesting trade. For the Clippers, you get younger. You get a guy in Darius Garland who, when he's healthy, the upside is there. He has that speed. He has that touch. I love when he takes those floaters. He kind of, off the pick and roll, he gets the defender on his hip and he's able to get that floater on the right side. That's been automatic for him. The question with Darius Garland is, can he stay healthy in in the playoffs, frankly, but really throughout the season, he just hasn't been able to. He's had that lingering toe issue. He had surgery on it, but it's continuing to linger a little bit into this season. So for the Clippers, it's there's upside there certainly, but the risk is his injuries and his injury history. For the Cavs, you get a guy in James Harden, you know what you're going to get during the regular season. He's having a great season, 25 points a game. He's usually 8 assists, just making a lot of plays and doing his thing, getting to the free throw line a bunch, and just making an impact. And in his first game with Cleveland against Sacramento, he hit some big threes in the fourth quarter to win that game. I'm very excited to continue to see that pairing, him and Donovan Mitchell. It's a contrast in styles. The Cavs have been a team that likes to get on the move, to hurry. Donovan Mitchell, he has that great speed. He loves pushing the pace. And James Harden's quite the opposite. He's the slowest player in the league. He likes to slow it down, get into a one-on-one action, and make some moves and drive and get to the free throw line or get fouled shooting a step-back three. Right? So it's contrasting styles, but James Harden's a player. Right, he has been. That's never been a question in the regular season. The question I have for Cleveland, you're going all in, right? There's rumors you want to get LeBron. You want to keep Donovan Mitchell. You want to get LeBron maybe in the offseason, bring him back for maybe his last season in the NBA. I just don't know if James Harden, again, I could be proven wrong, but every big moment in the playoffs when he was needed, he came up short, and very much so. And I like James Harden. I like him as a player. I rooted for them so hard. Him and Chris Paul and Eric Gordon and everybody. And the Houston Rockets against Golden State 2017 and 2018. But and it was unfortunate, Chris Paul getting hurt. They end up falling to the Warriors. But he needs to show something much greater than he's been in the playoffs for this trade to be a success for Cleveland. Because I just don't know, if James Harden's a guy you go all in for, right? He's been on 6 teams now. They haven't won a championship. They haven't really sniffed a championship. Right? They were a first-round exit. The Clippers were last season to Denver, and James Harden wasn't great for a lot of that series. He had his moments, but in Brooklyn he wasn't great. Right? You can talk about his previous stops. And for a lot of those Houston years, he wasn't great. But so I don't think going all in includes adding James Harden. If you want to win in the playoffs, James Harden, by definition, and just look at the numbers, look at the facts, has not been a winning player in the playoffs when it matters most, right? So I think that's a big question for Cleveland. And if he plays well in the playoffs and Cleveland makes it to the finals or wins a championship, it'll be the first for him playing consistently well in the playoffs. Now, the good thing is he won't have to be the do-it-all guy, right? Donovan Mitchell will still lead the way. Donovan Mitchell is a consistently great playoff performer. But you need Evan Mobley to step up. You need Jared Allen to play better in the playoffs. I like the Dennis Schroeder addition. I like the Keon Ellis addition. Those are very quality backup guards for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Keon Ellis was very sought after, and the Kings did not. I don't think they got what they needed from Keon Ellis in terms of a return. He was a sought after player in the league, and he didn't get the Kings. Kings are a train wreck. It's really embarrassing how bad they are front office wise. But we can get into them at some point as well, just a deep dive into the disaster they've been. But for Cleveland, I like those additions. I think they have a lot of depth now. You're going to get Max Strus back at some point. Sam Merrill's been great as a three-point shooter. This is his best season by far of his career. I think it's a good roster. And in the Eastern Conference, I think they can make the NBA Finals. It's just, can James Harden, there's going to be a game where Donovan Mitchell's off or something, or Donovan Mitchell's in foul trouble, and you need James Harden to carry you for a 5 or a 6 minute stretch offensively. Can he do that? Because defensively, he takes plays off. He's a little sluggish in the pick and roll. He's the slowest player in the league, right? So as a one-on-one player defensively, he's not terrible, but when he's off ball, he gets a little lost in the pick and roll and these backdoor cuts. So that's an issue. That's going to be an issue for Cleveland. But I think it's a solid trade. But again, I don't think you can say you're all in and bring in James Harden. That's kind of counterintuitive, just because he's been a no-show in the biggest moments in the playoffs. And I like James Harden. I root for him. I hope he can change that narrative. But he's going to have to change it in a big way for Cleveland for this to be a knock-it-out-of-the-park successful trade. The Wizards get Anthony Davis from the Dallas Mavericks. Anthony Davis probably going to miss this season. I think he has another year on his contract. I think he's a free agent in the summer of 2027. So interesting for the Wizards. They're going all in. They trade some pieces that weren't going to be a part of their future. Some younger players with some upside, but they like Sarr, right? They like George. I think they like Bub Carrington. I like Bub Carrington, right? They got some players. Koulibaly's not played well. He's not shooting it well, but I think they believe in him. I think he has a ton of upside, and I think the Wizards believe in that. You have Trae Young now, though he's been out for a while. It's a next season move for the Wizards for Anthony Davis. I like that they're going all in. They traded some picks. They traded a couple seconds and a first or something for Anthony Davis. They traded some picks, but they have a ton of picks in the future. So, look, the thing is, these first-round picks are so valuable in the NBA. The thing to do is what the Thunder did, and is what's making them so successful. You accumulate these draft picks, right? And you either keep them and you get these star players that you hope in the draft if you draft well, or you trade them for bona fide star players to aid some of the players you already have. Obviously, they got very fortunate that SGA turned into a stud in that Paul George trade. But you draft Jalen Williams, you draft Chet Holmgren with these first-rounders, right? You bring in a Caruso with some of the money you had saved up because you have a bunch of young players. You bring in Hartenstein, right? And even a guy like A.J. Mitchell, who's been tremendous this season, you draft him, and he's an afterthought by the league, and he's been tremendous this season when he's been healthy. So I think for the Wizards, they got to start moving in a direction. I think this is them saying, hey, we're done with this rebuild. I mean, they're still terrible this season, but you see the growth with this team a little bit. There's some momentum. There's some optimism with Washington, so that's exciting. So as for Anthony Davis, he's a great defensive player. He immediately helps them defensively when he's healthy, when he's on the court. And he's a bona fide bucket down low when he gets the ball down low. And he's been able to shoot the three pretty well. So I like that move. Celtics get Vucevic from Chicago. They trade Anthony Simons, who's on an expiring deal. They trade him to Chicago. The Bulls, they got a bunch of guards now. I don't know what they're exactly doing. I never know what the Bulls are doing anymore at this point. But as for Boston, I think that's a good move to add to their front court. You lose Al Horford in free agency. They like Keita, they like Luka Garza, but Vucevic automatically is an upgrade for Boston. Are they going to do anything this season? I don't think so. Is the East open? It is, but I think the Knicks are clearly better. I think Detroit's better. I think Cleveland's better than Boston this season. Now, if they get Tatum back, look out. But even then, I just think off his Achilles, it's just such a long process of rehab. I just think it would be hard to expect too much from Jason Tatum at that point. But for Boston, they're trying to win, and Simon's been great for them recently. But on an expiring deal, trade him to Chicago, and they'll accept the trade. And they have 12 guards, and they're going to be in the middle again instead of choosing a direction to go. Utah gets Jaren Jackson Jr. Memphis is entering a rebuild. I think that's a positive for Memphis. I think they got a lot of draft picks now. They're going to keep getting more. I like this for Memphis. They can't trade Ja Morant, though, because he has no trade value. He had no trade value at the deadline. He's hurt all the time, and he's had behavioral issues in the league. But I like this for Utah. Jaren Jackson Jr., you got Lauri Markkanen now. You got Keontae George. I like the direction they're going. The Hornets, who have been red hot, I want to talk about them real quick because they got Kobe White. Now, guard hasn't been an issue for them. They got LaMelo Ball. They got Con Knippel. Right, they had Colin Sexton, but they trade Sexton to Chicago. They get Kobe White, who is a good three-point shooter, has been a 19-point-per-game scorer with Chicago for years now, and I think has another year after this season as well. So the Hornets are all in right now. Not all in, but they're going to make the play-in at least, and I wouldn't be surprised if they, made it out of the play-in, because I don't think the Hawks scare them, the Heat don't scare them, and the Magic have been very underwhelming this season. So I love what the Hornets are doing. 9 games in a row they've won. What a job by everybody involved. Con Knippel's been tremendous. Brandon Miller's been really solid. Moussa Diabate's been tremendous. They got a lot of depth now. Grant Williams came back. He's a good depth piece for Charlotte. And I just think LaMelo Ball, I'd like him to take that next step. It feels like he takes plays off far too often, but good move for Charlotte. But other moves, the Pacers get Zubats. I like that move for Indiana as well. I'll get into some of these a little more next week. I'm kind of running out of time because I got a 1 to 2:30 class, so probably going to wrap it up there. But that's going to do it for the Sports Scoop with Nathan Schivins. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. The first Sports Scoop of the semester. First 3 weeks, for a variety of reasons, I wasn't able to do the show. Plus, I had to move it, and I like the noon time on a Monday, react to the weekend developments. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Hope you have a great week. And I'll see you next week. Sports Scuba Nathan Schivins, WPPJ 670 AM.